everyone, welcome back to my channel all about Zoe's. Today I'm going to be talking with you about my third trimester pregnancy with Zoe. By 28 weeks pregnant, I was starting to get very irritable. We were having a lot of financial stress and I was having a lot of moments where I kind of was having this fuzzy feeling. So almost like a dizzy spell. I started craving calcium type foods again, and also my snoring got worse. I think that's because when I was pregnant, there seems to be some curse in my family where our nose tends to widen. At 29 weeks, I was craving ice, and I also was craving Coke, the soft drink. But I knew that I was trying to avoid caffeine as much as possible. So if ever I was to allow myself to fulfill that craving, I would usually just have like a sip or two of my husband's drink rather than buying a whole one for myself. Only because even though there are studies that say caffeine doesn't affect the baby, I still think that it's such a small, tiny thing in comparison to our full-size adult selves, so I don't understand how having the same intake would not make a difference. My bones were also cracking a lot, and again I was just having sore hips, and then my knees started hurting as well, probably due to carrying the extra weight. At 29 weeks we were doing our calm birth class, and we loved the lady that we had do it with us. Her name was Joyce, and she was the most lovely, kind person, and she really just made us feel so welcome, and she gave us all the tools that we needed for when we were in labor. My husband particularly enjoyed it because he was given actual examples of what he could actually do, not just talking about it. So we would get up sometimes and practice a few things. It was also really nice to see what he found an interest in and to hear things from his side of the story, so I knew he was actually aware and thinking about what was going to happen and what his role would be as my advocator. Our calm birth class, we went for one Saturday a week, I think for 3 weeks, and we were there with 3 other couples, all due around the same time between March and April. And we really enjoyed sitting with them and talking every day. It was just nice to be in a room with other people that were in the same situation as us and wanting the same kind of thing. I definitely do recommend doing something like a calm birth class if it is your first pregnancy, or if you didn't have such a good experience the first time around. By 29 weeks, Zoe's head was down, which was great, and she was reacting more to noise. I started noticing that sometimes if a door would slam or something loud would happen, I could actually feel her jump with the fright, which is a little bit sad, but it was kind of cute at the same time. At 30 weeks, I was still having the hip pain, and I also was kind of freaked out this week because I started to experience not being able to breathe properly. It only lasted for a day and a night where it was really bad, so I had to use my pregnancy pillow a lot. I had a full body U-shaped pillow, so I just kind of curled it around into a donut sort of shape, and I'd lay my belly in that, and that seemed to be the only way to kind of alleviate some of that pressure off my lungs so I could breathe a bit more. Also, during 30 weeks, I had a random day where I had vertigo really badly. Probably again due to just my body putting on more weight and throwing my balance off a little bit. I also started to feel Zoe have hiccups, and that was definitely a theme that continued for the rest of my pregnancy. Every time I would lay down, she would get the hiccups. And what was even more amusing was when she was born, she would get hiccups a lot too. It was also by this stage that unfortunately my fingers were not so little anymore, and I could no longer wear my engagement and wedding ring. Throughout my entire pregnancy, I actually didn't really have any cravings for sweet things. I'm a chocoholic, and I actually went off chocolate. I bought it a few times thinking I would want it, and when I would eat it, it tasted so bad to me. It tasted chalky, and like the sweetness was not the same. It was the strangest thing. But by 31 weeks, all of a sudden I started craving ice cream, and I wanted ice in my milk, and I wanted other sweet things too, like Krispy Kremes became one of my biggest cravings. I also started to get extreme tailbone pain, and we were happy that Zoe's head was still down, so we were quite confident that she wasn't going to change position and she was going to be in an optimal position for when I went into labor and had to give birth. At 32 weeks, I was getting a bit worried about how much weight I was putting on. My doctor from the get-go had always been a bit concerned and told me to be quite mindful of gaining weight. So we'd been quite happy up to this point that I wasn't gaining an excessive amount because I am already a little bit on the heavier side. 32 weeks, my cravings for sweet things continued and the Krispy Kreme cravings kicked up a notch. By 33 weeks pregnant, I was actually starting to feel really good again. We also got to go on a little baby moon, so we went for a little trip a few hours away from home to the Sunshine Coast, and we just got away for a few days, and it was really nice to spend some time together. There was a pool. I actually didn't enjoy the feeling of being in the pool. It kind of hurt me when the weight of my belly went upwards, but it was really nice to go out and have dinner with my husband. 33 weeks, I also started to experience nesting. So I went ahead and started washing all her clothes and putting them away in their spots in her room. I was also getting quite anxious about all the changes that were about to happen and all the things that I still wanted to get done. So I think that also contributed to me starting nesting. My appetite increased dramatically around 33 weeks and I wanted to snack all the time, but I wasn't actually feeling hungry. It was a really strange sensation, and my belly button was getting a lot more shallow as well around 33 weeks. My areolas started to darken as well, and whenever I would walk along, my husband thought it was the cutest thing because my belly would bounce with me. At 34 weeks, due to our financial stress, I actually had to go back and do some relief teaching. That took a toll on my body. It was really hard being on my feet all day, and what was even worse was none of my shoes fit. So I was trying to get away with wearing my Havaianas, but on my final day actually I got told off because of course I knew that those were not appropriate footwear for a workplace, but my response to them was I don't fit into any of my shoes. My feet were really swelling by this stage, and it probably didn't help that I was having to work and be on my feet a lot. I actually started to get a bit of reflux this week, and I could tell that my digestion was slower. It was taking a lot longer for food to go down, so I'd have to be careful if I were to lay down too quickly after eating. And getting up started to be a slow struggle. When I would lay on my side, it kind of felt like I was laying on her, like it felt like my leg was on her head because she was low. We also had our 34-week interview with the hospital head midwife, which was really nice because in that interview we were able to discuss with them the ideal labor that we wanted, which was the calm birth and the water birth. So it was really nice to get on the same page. By 35 weeks, we packed our hospital bags. I started getting really tired again around now, and we also had my maternity photo shoot, which was so much fun. We are so lucky to have in our family an amazing photographer who's won awards. Her name is Jenny Curell Photography. I highly recommend checking her out if you live in the Brisbane or Southeast Queensland area. I also was starting to read up about ways to bring on labor or to help labor progress or be easier or faster. And so I started having 6 dates a day in my smoothies. Again, the sweet cravings continued. My deal with my husband was if I had to go to work and do relief work, then he had to buy me a Krispy Kreme at the end of every day. I actually thought my belly button was going to pop at this stage, but it actually never ended up when I was pregnant. At 36 weeks pregnant, we actually went to our local baby expo, which was really cool. We got so many goodie bags and lots of freebies. I have pretty much never had to buy soap or moisturizer. And we also bought some cute little nightlight decorations. We didn't want to buy too much, but there are a few things we knew we'd like. So for example, I also managed to get a really great deal and buy some more of the cloth nappies that I was wanting to get some more of. We also bought her the Jellycat Bunny, which I knew I always wanted to have as her kind of little special toy. And we finally got around to buying the car seat. The one we wanted actually wasn't in stock, but because I was so far along in my pregnancy, the lady was kind enough to let us take the one they had on display. At 37 weeks, my appetite kind of decreased. But I really enjoyed having that full feeling. So I was still trying to eat quite often to maintain that full feeling. And I started craving Nutella, so the chocolate came back for a little bit, and I was really enjoying drinking tea. I made sure to have a organic decaf brand. My feet were really getting swollen by this stage. On top they were bulging and it would actually hurt to touch them sometimes. My right foot was actually a little bit bigger than my left, and my heart was racing quite a bit. Throughout my third trimester, we discovered that I had high blood pressure. I believe it was probably due to the stress, the financial stress and the work stress that I had experienced, and my doctor decided to put me on some very slight blood pressure medication just to help, because we weren't sure if it was perhaps developing into preeclampsia. So by 37 weeks I'd had enough, and I said I could not work any longer. We had to get a blood pressure monitor to use at home because my heart rate was always elevated. When we went to the doctor, he thought maybe it was something called white coat syndrome, where because you're at the doctor's doing it, it tends to race a bit more. So when I was monitoring at home, my blood pressure was not as high. At 38 weeks, I was tired and I was starting to feel anxious, but also really excited to meet our little baby girl. It was also my 25th birthday, so we just ordered in some pizza with our family and had some cake. And it was just a really nice, relaxing time. I didn't want to go anywhere or do too much. I just wanted to be at home and relax with my loved ones. I was also trying to be a bit more mindful about what I was eating because I had such a bad diet the previous few weeks with sweet cravings, and I was worried about putting on a little bit too much weight. Also for the health of my baby, I didn't want to be having too much sugar. I again was enjoying that full feeling, and I started to experience reflux again. Quite a few times I would actually almost feel like throwing up after eating. Everything was just getting really squished in there. My face was getting very puffy and my hands and feet were just super swollen. Occasionally I started getting what I wasn't sure if it was like a slight Braxton Hicks or what some people like to call lightning crotch. It was basically just a very sudden, sharp pain in my pelvis area. It was very random, it didn't happen too often. At 39 weeks, it was Easter, so we got to celebrate with our family. And I was sure she was gonna be here around that stage. I was tired, but starting to feel a little bit better. My mood was, I was starting to get really annoyed and I was getting sick of waiting for her. For some reason, I thought because I was taking all these measures like chiropractor and drinking the smoothies with the dates, and I was taking other tablets that were recommended to help bring labor on, and it just was not happening for me. I also noticed that I had to drink a lot more water in the morning or I'd get headaches by the end of the day. We also started worrying about my labor. My doctor was concerned that I was going to have a big baby, probably because I was on the bigger side, and because of my blood pressure, he was starting to get a bit worried that maybe that could cause some complications in my labor. So he started to prepare me for the possibility that I might not get the water birth I would desire. So we started to discuss having a stretch and sweep for the following week, and he was looking at booking in for me to have a cesarean section quite early on, around 40 weeks I think, if nothing else progressed. So I was really worried and stressed out at that stage because my worst fear was to have a C-section. I really wanted to avoid that at all costs. So basically the worst case scenario was starting to look like a possibility for me. At 40 weeks, my cervix was starting to get soft finally. We did a stretch and sweep. I also started going to see an acupuncturist to try to get labor to come on. My sleep at night wasn't the best as I was getting a lot of pain, especially in my hips. For my frame, I have quite narrow hips, so it was a lot for my body to be going through. But luckily I was able to have naps during the day, and that was just the best. Again, I was stressed and anxious because I really didn't want to have to go through with being induced and possibly that leading to a C-section. My appetite was all over the place. Some days it would increase, some days it would decrease. I was craving the McDonald's chips around now, so no more sweet cravings. Luckily I wasn't having any more of that acid reflux feeling. My hips were very sore. I tossed and turned all night, and I could only lay on my side with the pillow between my legs to try to help alleviate that pain in my hips. And then I went into labor when I was 40 weeks and 2 days. And if you'd like to know more about my labor and delivery story, you can go and watch that video. I'll link it below. Thank you so much for watching my video about my third and final trimester pregnancy with Zoe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.